Hi everyone, welcome to the FQTV show, coming at you live from the Meakin Park studios. We're here once again. I'm joined, my name's Dan, of course, and I'm joined this afternoon by Natasha Wheeler. Welcome, Tash.
Thanks, Dan. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Good to see you back in the seat after you've had a couple of weeks off as well.
Yep, feeling refreshed.
And we are missing Callum obviously this week. I won't go without mentioning that. Our everlasting host who's done a fantastic job to launch the show this year. And we're joined with Kelly Crew as well, who's our Brisbane Royal A-League Women's Assistant Coach, as well as our QAS and Future Matildas Program Coach. Kel, how you doing?
Hey, good. Thanks for the welcome.
Yeah, good to have you on. Excited to be back here. We've had a huge week of football. It's the first week we've had in a very long time, it feels, where we've been able to get on the park and play almost every game across all of our top competitions in the state. But we'll start off with the regional roundup. So we had a number of regional games occur across the state, all the way obviously from the Gulf and Cairns down to the Gold Coast. In the Northern Conference, we started off with Townsville. The Saints Eagles Souths outfit handed Rebels FC their first loss of the season in a 6-2 victory. Doug Campbell, the president up there at Rebels, and the outfit at Rebels have been doing fantastically well. Pretty dominant season to start, but Saints were able to shoot them down. And we had a grand final rematch between the two teams sitting in second and third in Brothers and MA Olympic, with an 11-goal thriller, 6-5. So,
gosh, 11
goals.
I'd love to be watching that one.
I think as spectators, we love those sort of games, don't we? I mean, I can't imagine it's a bit of a coach's nightmare to concede 5 or 6 goals, but...
For a grand final rematch, you would never get that high.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of the Central Conference, we saw the FQPL 3 Sunshine Coast men's Noosa Lions, who in previous years have been the most successful team, previously under Kev up there as well, Kevin Ahern-Evans, drew with Maroochydore 1-1. They've had a bit of a tough start to the season, collecting points in bits and pieces, but it was good to see them get back on the points tally, which was great. And in the SEQ conference, in the Metro FQPL 3 women's competition, North Brisbane are running away with it at the moment, but we did have a good game between Springfield and Ipswich City. Springfield a 4-0 win up against the Ipswich City Bulls. Thoughts on that, Tash?
Yeah, I hear that the Ipswich City Bulls are coming back in after a bit of a time off. So it'd be good to see where they sit for the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And Springfield trying to get in their first season in the FQPL 3 women's, trying to push for promotion straight away and get into that FQPL 2. In the FQPL 3 South Coast men's, Service Paradise, as we've covered off all season, left a bit of a gap and had moved up to FQPL 2. It's left that pretty wide open, but Palm Beach was starting to assert themselves. However, Broadbeach asserted themselves with a 2-0 win over Robina, so that seems to be sort of the top 3 or 4 teams in that league at the moment. Broadbeach and George Pentecost, who's the vice president down there, doing some great things. The other one we'll touch upon as we go into the Cup competitions is the regional roundup. In the Australia Cup, we had a double header with the Kappa Women's Super Cup in Mackay. We had Magpies Crusaders, who are our FQPL 1 outfit out of Mackay, come up against Across the Waves, who are our central qualifier, I'll have you will. And they played out, obviously, pretty good result, Tash.
Yeah, it's great to see our regional teams versing each other. I know Across the Waves is Central Conference, and getting over, playing well against Magpies would have been a good game for them.
Yeah, absolutely, and good to see them fare themselves well. As we go into round 6, we've got our round 7 Northern qualifiers confirmed now. So we'll see Magpies Crusaders United in a rematch against Edge Hill in Cairns. We'll see that on July the 2nd, Saturday, Edge Hill hosting. That'll be a very exciting clash. Edge Hill looking to qualify again in consecutive years for the round of 32. And in the SEQ, we've got round 6 kicking off next week with a bevy of clashes. Don't forget to check out our socials. Jump on and vote for which SEQ round 6 matches you want to see live streamed. The 4 highest polling games will be streamed to our Facebook and FQTV channels.
And what about this Kappa Women's Super Cup?
How can I forget? Very good one, Tash. That was as part of that doubleheader, in the Mackay region. So we had that game followed by the Australia Cup. That was an absolute belter. Clinton FC from Central coming up against Country. Both of them love scoring goals from the looks of things. I did manage to watch most of that game. It's jumped out to 3-3 actually at half time before Clinton, I think, maybe had a bit of a travel fatigue. They'd driven up in the bus all day, and they managed to wear that off and pull it together for a 6-3 result in the second half. And I am told that the girls stayed around and had a few drinks and socialised afterwards, which is what Country Cup football's all about.
How good. I know the travel's always hard. travelling to the Sunshine Coast, so I can't imagine travelling
Yeah.
further than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you'd be familiar with that as well, Kel, given your career. But there is obviously a huge benefit to that, and that is the Kappa Women's Super Cup. I know we've said it a million times, but giving so many opportunities for some of these teams to play in regions they otherwise would never have done so.
Or teams that they never would verse against.
And I think such a good thing. I happened to be up in Mackay of the morning. I had to come back later that day, but it gave an opportunity, having a chat with some of the Country United players, the opportunity to socialise, meet, mingle, and maybe even share some thoughts around, football and where we can go with football, women's football, cup football in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Start conversations which you might not.
Yeah, exactly. And that type of football is different than your week in, week out league football. The knockout round kind of brings to surface different teams and the way they attack a game in a different way. Coaches can coach a game as well, being that it's you've got to give it all.
Yeah, I think to touch upon that, Kel, it's a good point, because it's something in the early part of this season, and we'll always do at Football Queensland. We review about how we want to run cup competitions, right? Because there's two formats. You can do your knockout format, which we traditionally know with the FA Cup in England or the Champions League. The FA Cup, or I was going to say the Champions League has the round robin that goes into a knockout. And so initially some thoughts we started to float around when we were looking at the format, depending on how many teams nominated for Kappa Women's Cup, is there some value or benefit add in having a round robin? Resoundingly, when we started to have some conversations with a few different clubs, to your point, everyone actually just really likes the knockout format, because straight away everything is on the line. You don't have this, 2-3 round robin games to start to feel things out. Everything's on the line from the get-go.
Yeah.
So
if you don't make finals, you don't know what it feels like until you're there, and sometimes you need that exposure.
Yeah. No, absolutely, Tash. I think it's such an interesting point, and as we said, cup football gives a lot of these clubs that potentially even aren't in finals reckoning an opportunity to push for something at least anyway, even as we go towards the mid part of the season.
And anything can happen in those games too, so it's always a game.
Yeah, it's really exciting, especially with the extra time. You need a result, so for the fans as well, sometimes those results can bring longer games and more viewing and heightened experience, so it's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Going into the NPL men's, and I love that we started with, as we said, the regional football, and we'll cover off on the NPL men's. We only highlight a couple of games. For me, the one I will highlight is the Brisbane City versus Kappa game. That at the time was 10th v 12th, and Brisbane City playing out at Max Haynes Field got a pretty strong result in the end. Kappa have done well this year and picked up 3 points, 3 draws rather, at Max Haynes for 3 points. But Brisbane City's starting to maybe hit their straps now and have some continuity, got a good result. Any results caught your eye, Tash?
I was just touching on the Kappa game.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Tell me about it.
I was just thinking that, Max Hayne, they widened the fields after that game.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So
before or after that game?
After the game.
That is an interesting one, because
they've had a lot of success with the field there, narrow fields. I know a lot of teams have been caught out with that, so it's gone back to a widened pitch now, so you get the full width.
Yeah, interesting. Probably, obviously, clubs and teams, and yourself, obviously, having some experience playing Kappa pretty well, will play such a different style given the wider pitch as well.
For sure, 100%. I feel like you can play out from the back a bit easier, and teams that shortening the width of the pitch makes you go more direct. And how many teams play like that?
Yeah,
not many.
It is such a unique style of play. I know Kappa, as we said, had some success with that earlier in the season, so interesting to see where that lands. In terms of other results.
Yeah, the Olympic versus Gold Coast night game. I was keen to see that game on the weekend. I wasn't expecting that scoreline though.
Yeah, a traditional derby, as it is anyway, as we touched upon last week. The might of Olympic been in the NPL since its inception. Gold Coast Knight's been a powerhouse for 3 or 4 years now.
Yep.
Traditional heritage bases of the Greek community against the Croatian community. Kel, probably pivoting out of that. And I won't throw you too much on the spot as we are probably going through this afternoon or tonight. What have you played in many derby games, as you would say, or can you lean upon any experience and tell me what a derby feels like? And I'll be honest, haven't played football for a few years, so I maybe forget that emotion that's attached. But can you think of a time where you've played for a club in recent memory where there has been a derby?
No.
Redlands Kappa, was that ever a derby that you were part of?
I wasn't really in leagues where we both verse each other, but it's always fun to get around the men's when they have their derbies, and it's always, brings a lot of people to the clubs.
Yep.
But personally, women's league, it didn't match up where I was playing at the time. definitely overseas, I've had those sort of matches before, and it's just that rivalry you're kind of born into when you adopt a team, when you start playing for a team. But again, it's just like those Kappa Cup knockout rounds. It just brings a different element to the game, and you feel the experience from the crowd as well a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. It adds that little heightened level of emotion.
Yeah.
Everything seems to be worth that little bit more.
Yep.
Yeah, excellent. So, yeah, they're probably the two key results, obviously, in the NPL men's. As we go into the NPL women's, I'll let you touch upon probably a result close to home, Tash.
Yeah, Kappa winning 2-1 over Moreton Bay. I think that was a tight game. Both teams were pushing for a top 4 spot. Kelly, you scored in that game, I feel.
I did. It doesn't happen very often.
How
Usually
can
one a
I
season.
forget?
I did, yeah.
You seemed so surprised
Yeah,
about that.
yeah, I did, now that you mention it.
Yeah, no, people are reminding me because it doesn't happen that often. I almost forgot.
How did the game play out? Like, probably, yeah, given you're one of the first people we've had on this year who's actually been playing. We've had a lot of former players. But how did the game play out? Thoughts on, obviously, how Moreton Bay are going to shape up for the season?
Moreton Bay is a really strong team, and I think the really special thing about the league this year is that it is very close. Just one result can shift the whole table, as we're noticing week after week. The game itself was, I think, a bit of waves. We had a lot of dominant possession at one stage, but couldn't score.
Yep.
So it was us trying to break down their defensive block, and then they had a wave where we felt like we were under attack for a bit. So yeah, it was really good to kind of grind out the result there. But Moreton Bay will continue to take points off people this season.
Yeah, defensively they were very secure and they knew their roles and positions, and
yeah, I think we found it hard to break it down.
Yeah, they weren't easy to break down. So
you touched upon it. I know we've spoken about it a few times in various shows recently as well, Tash. I think the NPL women's right now, not tapping Football Queensland on the back, but I think we've actually nailed it in terms of just competitive games now.
Yep.
And we know there's a runaway leader. Like, I'm not going to gloss over that. There is clearly a runaway leader who've done well.
Yep.
And I'm not saying as well that they're not, what's the best word? I want to say belting, but they're not really overpowering teams. They are still getting some results there. I mean,
they've had some tough games as
some
well.
really tight games, right?
South and QAS as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but as we said, like on any night, we've just seen
you can go from ninth to 5th or 3rd. You can get into the top 4
Yep.
just at the start of the season. But I mean, Kappa, they jumped from 9th to 4th.
Yeah, and that's the league you want, right? Like that's where you're really going to have, especially in the girls and women's space, where people are wanting to push into that level. They want to know it's going to be a close league where every week you're an opportunity to improve and be challenged. And I think that's just so exciting for us. Like I'm really, really happy with how that's sort of panning out. And I hope the girls are really enjoying playing in the league, obviously, as well.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's just going to strengthen our Queensland in general, even though we do come from a lot of pedigree already.
Yep.
But yeah, no, it'll be good. It'll be good moving forward. And when it comes to a 10-team comp next year, playing every week and no bye.
Yeah, absolutely. Will be very good. The other thing I will just quickly touch upon, because it is noteworthy and something we are across at the moment. Lions, here's a stat for you, Tash. Lions have not lost a game since the middle of August in 2020. They have not lost a game.
Wow, okay.
So in that time, they have drawn twice. They drew twice last year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
From memory last year, the 2 draws were against East and South. Mitchelton. It was East and Mitchelton.
Yes,
that 3-3
I remember that result. I think it was
up 3-0.
Everyone was a bit shocked on that one.
Yep. Maddie Moy, I think, was on as well. She played, might have scored a goal in that game, Maddie Moy.
Yeah, yep.
But came back, obviously, and drew 3-3, and then the East draw on a very cold night at Heath Park as well last year. But we're coming up on 2 years since they've lost a game.
That's a credit to their program, and it filters down from their juniors to their top team as well. So they have done some good things out there, and obviously, the cup competition's included in that as well. So excellent. Moving right along now to the FQPL 1 men's. You know what, Tash? I'm going to let you take this one away because it was a very exciting weekend of football. Oh, yes. Ipswich Knights versus Brisbane Strikers. Ipswich Knights sitting on last and Strikers are in the top 4. With Ipswich coming out with a win off that would have been a really, really good game. Yeah,
I caught probably 3/4 of that. Ipswich went away early and Strikers called their way back, but just fell short at the end.
Yep.
They're in front of their crowd at Perry Park as well, so I know they'll be very, very excited to get back on the park and sort of revenge that result this weekend.
For sure.
In terms of the other one that caught my eye, it was a similar result in terms of Western Pride, who weren't the fancied team by any means coming up against Redlands United.
Yep.
Redlands sitting in second position, Western Pride sitting just outside the 4. They've now consolidated that. They've brought everything together. And we've made almost in the FQPL 1 men's now, you'll see on the ladder there's a bit of a top 5, bottom 6 sort of thing happening, which is good. It means, this often happens in leagues. We see it. It seems to be a split. But again, we talk about competition. It means, those sort of teams, when they're playing off, it's going to be very close games.
Yeah, no.
So, which is exciting. Moving right along to the FQPL 1 women's. Kel, I'm going to throw it to you. Did you manage to catch any of the results that came out of this league? Did anything surprise you, or?
Yeah, there was a few results that were discussed. Some of the girls I know, obviously the result against Brisbane City and Mitchelton, a big scoreline of 5-1, but maybe not reflective of the game and how much of a battle it actually was. Just goes to show on any given night, if you're finishing your chances, you can run away with a big scoreline. Just irrespective of the quality of the battle.
Yeah, I heard that Brisbane City hit the post 3 or 4 times, which is always disappointing, especially when the results are like that. Could have closed the gap a little bit more, but you're so right, if you don't finish your chances, it's the difference between a win and a loss.
Yeah, I think that league as well, it's a similar one where we've sort of got 4 teams in Power, Pride, Mitchie and City now probably trying to assert themselves and pull away. We know, obviously, Power again, still undefeated in terms of haven't lost a game.
They definitely surprised me with this year.
Yeah,
Power did.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have touched upon it previously. Alex Smith just doing great things out there with the women's program and really wanted to take them to the next level.
Yep.
Went down in the cup game a few weeks ago to Lions, but
it's always going to be a tough ask for them in that one. So they did well. They did really well in that game. So
and then Callie Purifoy, as you touched upon in the result between Mitchie and City Kel, still doing her scoring things in the big drive down from Gladstone and grabbing 2 to continue to lead the goal scoring charts.
I'm surprised she does the drive every weekend.
It's phenomenal. So I hope Callie is one of our viewers, because we really need to reach out to you and maybe arrange to get you on the show, Cal, or have a chat with you, mate, because that is it's phenomenal, to be honest.
100%.
That's commitment. Moving right along to the FQPL 2 men's. Again, we're starting to see some front runners there, as we know. We're reaching the halfway point of most of our leagues. Surface and Albany Creek Excelsior, again, still yet to drop a game, as in lose a game. They have had some draws now. The big one that happened midweek last week was Surface Paradise actually drawing with last place Virginia, 2-2 on a cold night down at Surface. So that was huge for us. But there was a couple of games there as well. Tash, I'll let you touch upon between some opponents.
Yeah, on the weekend, Sanford and Grange played each other, but they also played on Tuesday, but reversed, with Grange winning over Sanford. So they've just had a catch-up round and playing twice in
3 days, I guess 3.5 days.
3 days, yeah. So
which as we know can happen maybe again in European leagues or other leagues across the world, but in a traditional format where we play in Oz, where you play your sort of 9, 10, whatever it is, home games, away games, and then you reverse.
Yep.
It's so unusual to have this opportunity for retribution within 3 or 4 days.
For sure, yeah. Straight away. It's like, also, do you change your game plan because you know it straight away, and they've just played you as well. So
that's
the tactical sort of side of that.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tash. I reckon the coaches would have gone away and gone, well, yes, we've played almost, it's almost 2 halves of 90 minutes as opposed to 2 halves of 45 within a 90. Yeah. Because you can go away and I'm sure there were probably actually there was times that I'm going to touch upon that because I just flagged in my head. It happens with you this year in the A-League.
It definitely did. So it has its perks. With that your preparation the week before is for that opponent, and then if you're versing them in quick succession, you can kind of just tweak and revise a few things. We had it early in the season with Perth, home and away straight away.
Yes.
But you can obviously see coming back, Sanford coming from the loss. Being able to tweak a few things and turning things around to make sure they tidy up and get the win on the Tuesday. So from a coaching perspective, it's nice to be able to kind of just keep your focus on that one team and tweak and try something else if needed. But yeah, it's interesting, and you don't really get to do it that often. But
it would have been good, as you said. You do your review session like the day after a game or 2 days after a game. You actually get to put that into practice, especially when you burst them straight after. So that would have been like very rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only difference here with this game, obviously, was the short turnaround. Like there wouldn't be much time to actually get on the pitch with the boys and actually change things. It would have been more of verbal instruction and kind of let them have it and see what happens.
I think there would have been, and I love everything you've both just said, and there would have been a little bit added in terms of personal battles. I can only maybe speak to my experience. If you're playing someone twice in 3 days, especially for Sanford, who obviously dropped the game initially, I can guarantee there were a couple of battles there where the boys were going, well, hold on, we've got a chance within 2 or 3 days to really turn the tables on you.
Yeah.
And that actually probably, to be fair, the toughest would have been for Grange because they've got the points in the first game. They actually then want to get back up for the game, knowing full well that Sanford's going to come so hard at them. It did happen as well. The other one as well, I was thinking, Kel, and I could be wrong, was it against Canberra? Maybe you played Canberra twice in 2 or 3 weeks?
Yeah, because we had to play a catch-up round. The
Correct.
first one got swapped out.
Yeah.
And so, we got it again.
At the end of the season, I'm pretty sure you played them twice in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's right. And we got to rectify that time, which was good.
And then the other one that we touched upon, that we didn't touch upon, but touched upon Ace, was Wynnum up against Albany Creek Excelsior. That was only the second draw that Ace have suffered this year. So, 2-2 in that fixture. Moving right along, FQPL 2 Women's. Again, Tash, I'm going to throw to you because there was a very unique and interesting result in that league as well.
Yeah, I'm excited. Grange Thistle beating UQ. Grange is sitting towards the bottom of the ladder and UQ has been in the powerhouse with Taringa. So I was very excited to see that result, a little bit shocked, but also very happy for the Grange girls. Yep. They would have been stoked. So it's always nice to, when you come up against those tough battles, to win those. Especially UQ might have come in with expecting to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've got, again, as we know, a really strong female or women's program out at UQ as well, so doing some great things. The other one that caught my eye was Taringa up against Rabina. Taringa, again, leading from the front, playing pretty well. Touched upon it last week. They've got a couple of former NPL girls in their team that sort of wanted to try a new challenge this year. And Rabina, again, as we know, have got a couple of former NPL players themselves.
They do. It's a good little bit of a battle. I'm surprised that Rabina's sitting mid-table though.
Yeah, I think, and from touching upon with conversations with a few players, they've just had some ins and outs and probably struggling to get the same team on the park every week. Taringa's cup run ended last week at the hands of Sunny Coast Wanderers. So I know for a fact now that they're going to look to get really focused back into the league, making sure they qualify in one of those top 2 spots to push forward for promotion. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Moving right along, we'll actually get straight into the previews because we're going to save plenty of time to chat with you at the end, Kel, about all things Brisbane Roar Women's and I guess your experience coming through the coaching system. In the NPL Men's, can't go past this weekend. We've got a huge game.
Yep.
These guys know each other so well. Peninsula Power up against Lions, out at AJ Kelly, Friday night to kick off the round. Thoughts, anything, comments?
Oh, it's going to be a good game. It always is. But, Lions Power probably hasn't had the best start to the season.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting how they measure up against Lions, who've been quite strong recently. Yeah,
absolutely. The 2 perennial powerhouses really for the last 4 years because we had Lions go back-to-back with premierships, Power go back-to-back with premierships.
Yeah.
Lions did get them earlier in the season in, again, a high-scoring fixture, 6-3 out at Lions Stadium. Peninsula, a really interesting phase where they're in. They've gone two premierships, as I've said, back-to-back, but have really now started to hit the reset button and pushing through a lot of their younger players. Malachi Love Samira has come on for them in the last couple of weeks, especially, and into their first team and scored a few goals, and he's doing great things. Lions, as we know, are on top of the table. So if you're not doing anything on Friday night, you should be watching that game on FQTV because it is going to be an absolute belter. Any other games there? There's obviously a couple there between sort of teams in the top half and the bottom half, but probably nothing that super catches my eyes. I don't know about you guys.
Not to me, but Kelly?
No, moving right along. Excellent, that's fine. NPL Women's, for me, I think the Gold Coast United Lions. I know we actually haven't highlighted that one as a bit of a match of the round. That, because Gold Coast United were the last team to, I guess, take something off Lions, and they took the premiership off them in 2020.
Yep.
So I think they're traditional rivals as well. So heading down to Coplix will be a good game for them.
Yeah, Gold Coast have also come off a win from QAS in the Kappa Cup, so they'll be feeling strong.
A strong win as well.
Yeah. So
probably worth covering. A very That one caught me off guard. Convincing win.
Yeah, because QS have been really strong the beginning of this season, so I was surprised by that result, an 8-0.
Well, yeah.
8-0 result.
I was probably going to pivot over to you, Kel. QS, I mean, we've touched upon this throughout the year in terms of what the premise of the program is, but tell me more. Is that something that is not unusual to see? Because I see those results and go, 7-0, 8-0 was it? Sorry, it was 8-0.
Yeah.
But and I didn't mean to dig that one in and go, sorry. One more goal.
Yeah.
But I guess for me, the way, and it's a good opportunity for us to pivot and talk about the QAS program, they're going to happen from time to time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what you have when you've got a young squad. So, were you guys surprised? Were you disappointed? I'm not going to say disappointed, put words in your mouth, but you tell me about that result. What do you think?
Yeah, I think everyone involved was probably a bit disappointed and surprised at the same time, but we've got to understand that it's quite a large squad as well, and it's quite a difference in age as well. So I think with the number of people in that squad, with the rotation of who plays on any given night, sometimes you find maybe the combination wasn't right, something went wrong, and you'll see these results. Unlike some of the other NPL teams are pretty consistent squads. So you're kind of working with the same sort of combinations, I guess. So that's what I think kind of shows in those games. And we saw it in previous years as well, when they've switched player combinations, that results can kind of change.
Yeah, because it wasn't, 10 or 12, 14 days ago that 3-2 against Lions. Mm-hmm. And that's what really caught me off. I was looking going 3-2, wow. Yeah. And chatting with people around the grounds going that, QAS are going to be a bit of a force this year. And then that one, when I checked the results on the Thursday morning last week, I was like, okay, these things are going to happen.
Yeah, but it can happen to any team. I mean, a couple of injuries, people can't make games. And any club team that has a consistent amount of squad members, the same thing can happen.
Yeah, and it's for those players to mature as well and have to travel on a school night late and be able to kind of endure those conditions as well. So it's a good learning curve for them as well to back up after those good performances and try to stay more consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. Tash, thoughts on any of the others? There's probably another key one that I reckon, again, will catch your eye there. But
yeah, well, QAS and Sunshine Coast, that's a mid-table battle. They're both sitting on the same amount of points, as well as the East versus Kappa game. They're, third and fourth, also sitting on the same amount of points. So those two games are pretty eye-opening, and they're going to, if one of those teams wins, then you're going to start pushing away from the next and securing some points there.
Yeah, I think there is some opportunities in the coming weeks, as you said, where as close as it is, there's some chances for clubs to really start asserting themselves and putting a bit of a divide in that table as well.
I mean, interesting if those two teams start drawing, then, you still have the same thing. One win can jump you all the way up to second or third.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
and what's exciting about the games coming up this round is that you can't confidently pick a winner.
No.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Every game is almost like a game of the round at the moment.
It's a coin toss, right? Like you've nailed that, Kel. Like I think, and that, as we said earlier, is just the epitome of a really good league. It's just something where, viewers, spectators, parents, players, everything will love to be part of it. Excellent. In the FQPL 1 men's, a couple of good games there, but probably the key one to watch is Western Pride of Brisbane Strikers. So I think Western Pride looking to continue to assert the Ipswich dominance over Strikers in recent weeks, but Strikers, as we know, looking to bounce back.
Another mid-table battle.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that one there should determine, obviously, who stays in fourth, who will drop down to fifth. And then the Magpies, I will touch upon this one. The Magpies Crusaders United against SWQ Thunder. Two of our more regional-based teams. Thunder obviously being based out in Toowoomba, making the travel for the first time in a number of years up to Mackay.
It'll be an interesting one for them.
Yeah, and I think it's, as we touched upon earlier, the travel generally catches people off guard. It does. It'll often take a half or a period of time for them to adjust and they'll obviously fly, not catch a 20-hour bus. But
for sure. I mean, Thunder travels quite regularly down to Brisbane, but catching a plane is a little bit different. Don't you agree, Kelly?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's different prep. Depending on the flights, your meal scheduling might be off, and then you might have access to the things you usually do at home there. That you can't just take it with you in the car type situation. So flying definitely is something that if you're not doing it regularly, it's hard to kind of be ready to play straight after.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on into the FQPL 1 women's competition. Again, we've got two of those teams who have said are in that sort of top four in Pride and Mitchelton coming up against one another. there is a key battle there as well, which will be Abby Lloyd and Callie sort of going head-to-head without obviously going head-to-head on the field. In terms of the top two in the Golden Boot race, Callie has run away with it at the moment with 17, so I'm sure she's looking to add to the tally. Any other games there?
Yeah,
Tash,
Logan Lightning versus Gap. I mean, that's a bottom of the table battle there. Gap hasn't got any points at the moment, but this is their chance to secure some points, hopefully. So this is their chance if they can get over Logan this weekend.
Absolutely, and then the Virginia-Brisbane City, a bit of a north side battle there between two clubs who have come back into that NPL, FQPL 1 space in recent years. As we go towards the end of the previews for the week, we're almost getting there. It is a bit of a deep breath, Tash. There's so much football to cover, but that is a good thing because we're finally
so many battles.
I know, battle. I feel like it's a Mario Kart game, battle galore. As we go into the FQPL 2 competition, we've got Wynnum Wolves coming up against Magic United. They played earlier this season and played at a really close game, so that'll be good to see them come up against each other. That's at the moment Magic United sitting third, Wynnum sitting fifth. So third v fifth will be really, really good. And there is a really good battle at the bottom there. I'll let you touch on, Tash, between two rivals as well.
Grange Thistle versus North Star. Two bottom of the league teams wanting to get out of relegation. Yep. So, securing points against your rival.
Yep. Again,
crucial.
Critical. Yeah, really crucial to push up the table. And Holland Park Hawks, Danny Nijik coming up against Steve over at Albany Creek Excelsior as well. So that's second v fourth at the moment, sorry. Excellent. All right, we've got one more competition, the FQPL 2 Women's, and then we can actually start to talk to you, Cal, and get a bit of an understanding as to your journey thus far. Eastern Suburbs up against UQ. East, obviously their second team against the traditional powerhouse in UQ, as we said.
Yep.
Any other key points you want to take around the FQPL 2 women's comp, Tash?
I feel like I've been talking about Grange all night,
right.
but
The Grange
I know
show.
AC, Karina and Grange, have been promoted together, so that's pretty much a little derby for them this weekend, even though they are AC's mid-table and Grange is coming off a win with UQ, so they'll probably be feeling that on Saturday night.
Absolutely. And then we've got the Gold Coast derby between Broadbeach and Robina.
Yeah.
Again, two teams that really want to push up and sort of push into that next league as well. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Kel, let's talk to you about your journey. Give us a bit of a background. We, as I said and covered off at the start, we are familiar with you in terms of you've come through and done some QAS stuff. Is it sort of looking after the program there as well? And you've ended up at the Brisbane Royal women's team and program in recent years. Give us a bit of an understanding as to how you ended up there.
Well, I guess my journey to coaching got a bit more serious after I graduated college in the States. So I stayed an extra year in Tennessee where I was, and I started coaching at the...
UT? University of Tennessee?
UTC.
UTC? What's Tennessee's mascot?
We are the Mocks.
What is a mock?
Mockingbirds.
Oh, a mockingbird. Yeah, right.
I thought you were meaning a moth.
It's changed a few times in recent years, but the Mocks is what they're affectionately known.
Yeah, okay,
You're
cool.
mocking us.
The reason I ask, and this is something, I'm throwing this over to our media and marketing team too, and sorry to come off topic, but it's a cool thing.
Yeah, of course.
Is, in college sport, how pivotal mascots are to identities with college. I feel like really in football we need to start capitalising on that. Like we talk about the Bulldogs and the Doggies and we talk about Lions obviously at the fore, but we really need to start to embrace this. And I want to put it out there. Here's something I'll put it on the show.
Should we have a mascot week?
We should have a mascot week, and we should nominate your best mascot. So obviously we've covered off on some of our regional based teams. If you think you have a mascot that's unique, and we have 322 clubs at the moment, Tash, in Queensland.
Yes.
That's how many total clubs we have. If you think you've got a unique mascot and we haven't seen it yet, and I know there's some in Brisbane, the North Pine Gorillas, they're pretty cool. Please send it through to us. Flick it through to us, media@footballqueensland.com.au, and we'll cover off on a couple of mascots in future weeks. But anyway, back to you, Kel. Sorry.
Cool. No, it was a great thing. I just flashbacks of college and having the mascots run around at the soccer or the basketball, the football game. So it definitely does a good thing of bringing club kind of spirit together.
And culture, right? It's just
absolutely. Cool, yeah, so after doing that, I was going to remember what I was talking about. So I coached there, and I also coached a high school team. And people may be unaware, but for the women, the high school system is closely linked to the college system. So a lot of the girls play very seriously in high school to try and get picked up by colleges. So it was a great kind of environment to be in, to try and start getting a little bit more serious with my coaching, rather than moving out of the development space, kind of into performance. And then coming back to Australia, I started coaching at Kappa. So coached the under 16 NPL girls there.
Yep.
And then after coaching at the Medis team for in schoolgirls, I got asked to come join the QAS and see if that was going to be a good fit for me. And I've been there for 3+ years now, which has been really good. And then through those roles, got a call from Jake Goodship. So he called and wanted to have an interview with me to be part of the women's program at the Brisbane Roar. And now I've done my second season, but obviously under Gareth McPherson this year.
Yeah, excellent. Something we touched upon off camera, and it's something I am curious about, is you've mentioned obviously Jake Goodship, you've mentioned now working with Gareth. You've had exposure to a number of other coaches in American sport, leaning on that American experience you've had. We talk about coaching trees, right? Where there'll be a coach, and it's often really big in American football or basketball, where a coach, and I'll use an example, Greg Popovich in the San Antonio Spurs, he almost has a thing called a family tree, but it's a coaching tree, and out of him comes a number of coaches. So I guess my question to you is, who has influenced you mostly in your development as a coach? You've worked and played under a number of coaches, and you can have more than one. Mm-hmm. But where do you fit in terms of your coaching tree? Like, who's influenced your philosophy and your style?
I think I've picked up bits and pieces from people along the way. I think like technical side, I go back to Kevin Meacock when he was one of my development coaches.
Yeah,
wow.
okay, Kev.
Yeah. So when I was in under 12, under 14 boys, he was my coach there. What club was that at? Wynnum Wolves.
Wynnum?
Yep.
Right. Okay, yep.
So a lot of the technical stuff, it's still like ingrained in me, and I can hear myself actually teaching some of the development athletes different manoeuvres based on what I learnt there. And then as I got older, Ray Dower was my coach at Redlands United, and through Queensland state representative teams, I had her, and she was really effective in very passionate coach and delivering messages and building that team culture. And I have fond memories from those tournaments, and she's a key part of that as well. And then tactically over the last couple of years, being more in that elite space, there's things I've picked up from Jake and Gareth both about just tactical different elements that you can apply.
Yeah, fair enough. Another thing that has sort of piqued my curiosity in trying to understand your journey is you are relatively young. I'm not going to tell viewers at home or listeners, obviously, your age or anything like that, but you're relatively young to be in that coaching space. And something I've always found really interesting is people who, you're young enough to still be playing. We touched upon you scoring a goal. Do you face it? Do you think it's a challenge, or do you face any challenges being in an age where you could still be playing, or where you're potentially coaching people who are older than you? Has that been a challenge? And I just know so many examples. It's very, very rare it happens in a professional space, right? Like, in Chelsea in recent years, I do know I've had a couple of coaches, and Tottenham have had coaches that have come through and been younger than players. But often it doesn't last, or there's a bit of a challenge around experience. Is that something you've found, or what's your experience with that?
Yeah, it was really, it's been like a journey, honestly. I knew it would be difficult stepping into the Brisbane Roar assistant role with Jake, knowing that I've played with a lot of those girls, but then also a lot of those girls I looked up to playing when I was younger, being that they were a little bit older than me, and having to earn their respect and being able to build a relationship where they feel that they can learn something off me, or I can assist them with their journey. And it was just building rapport with them. As a coach, I'm there to service the athletes and almost be like a mirror to them. So when they're playing, the game teaches them basically, but if they can't see it, then I'm just there to reflect what the game does and bring it to life. So building rapport and relationships with those girls, I had to navigate that, but I ended up building some really good relationships there. And playing myself, that's been really hard, having to kind of choose, I guess, but I really enjoy the high performance space. And so I self-aware enough to know that my playing ability wasn't getting me there. But coaching was a passion of mine as well, and I love being in the high performance spaces. And I just started kind of hitting my stride with that, and I'm enjoying the journey where it's taking me at the moment.
I feel like you were able to articulate yourself very well, like from your teaching background. You're able to explain things that if people don't understand, you're able to just kind of see it from a different perspective and explain it. And I think you do that really well.
Yeah, and that's been a learning I've had from teaching and then from coaching as well. It's, yeah, I can see it. We can all see the same thing, but we all can see something different in it.
Yep.
So being able to rephrase and kind of pick the way, or coach the way the athlete needs. And that might be rephrasing and articulating it different ways. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you also playing as well.
I was going to ask you this, by the way. That was actually when I'm glad you just organically picked up on this, but I was going to go, Tash, you've played with Kel. How do you think her coaching philosophies or the way that she coaches has actually become part of her playing style or playing game? Like, how is she to play with as a player now? Yeah,
great. Like you said that as a coach, you pick up on things that from the outside that they might not see. That's probably something as well that you're a player and a coach, so you're not always going to be right.
Yeah.
So you're able to see that as a player from a player's perspective and a coach's perspective. So that would be really unique for you.
Yeah, and I'm really enjoying that because as a coach, you're on the sideline. So obviously you can see things, but you're not experiencing that feeling of pressure. Being able to we can see the whole field from where we stand.
You have time.
But,
you're not pressured.
In the game, you might have a distorted view of what's happening. You haven't scanned or something like that. So playing and going back into those environments is really connecting to the real-time pressure and the pitcher.
Yeah.
Has been really helpful.
Yep, I could imagine it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Kel, we'll touch upon something that Tash, we've had conversations around, and that is the professionalism of the NPL women's competition. We know that there are a number of clubs now in that space and players in that space who are on professional contracts, and obviously the Brisbane Royal A-League women's space has gone in that direction as well by having professional contracts. You've played, you've now coached in it. I guess what's been the biggest eye-opener for you, Kel, over the last, say, 3 to 5 years of your journey? What have you noticed in women's football, whether it's at the NPL women's level or to the A-League women's level? What's been the biggest changes?
I think the step up from the NPL W clubs, being that they want to keep some of these A-League women, want to keep them in the States, I guess, in their squads and coming back into that environment post-season. But to be able to do that, they need to have a level of professionalism. Otherwise, these players will try to seek that somewhere else or go overseas. But with the development of our clubs now, with physio and S&C support, there's just so much more professionalism in the clubs that it makes an easy transition for some of these girls coming from a professional environment back into those environments as well.
And with the league getting stronger overall and making the games each week competitive, that's going to want to keep them here.
Yeah, and as a player, I think we've noticed it, the league, especially NPL women's this year, and you touched on it earlier, it's fantastic. I haven't been part of a league in Brisbane that is this competitive. So I think, it's definitely been done right, and every game is really competitive, and that's what these athletes that do stay in Australia need. And if they want to stay in Queensland, it's now some really quality football that they can play in the off-season.
Yeah, agreed. Kel, I'll finish on one last question. It's a pretty open-ended one. What are your long-term ambitions as a coach? Where do you want to land? You've sort of said you came out of retirement to play a couple of games for Kappa, and that's not at all, again, giving away or indicating anything to do with Kel's age, because she's very young.
You're always on it, aren't you?
Yeah. But obviously you do have an eye on coaching. Where's that journey going to take you? Do you reckon you'll end up as a head coach, an NPL women's program, anything further? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you just do dream from time to time about where exactly you want to take it. Right now, I just want to be a sponge and be the best coach I can be, and just say yes to as many opportunities that do come my way and see where it takes me. I do want to be a head coach, so I want to continue to seek opportunities that give me that, to put me in those environments. But right now, I'm really enjoying my development and leaning on those around me to just be the best coach I can be in the future. Yeah,
fantastic. Excellent. We might call it to a stop there. Here, I feel like we've wrapped up pretty well. That's a good little bow tie to put in the end of the conversation. Sure. Thanks for joining us at home. It's been great to have your company. Tash, thanks for coming along.
Thanks, Dan.
Kel, thanks for joining us, obviously on late notice, but you've been fantastic.
Yeah,
And
Thank you, Kelly.
I will give you a confession. I had a look through your playing journey, and there was a gap between 2013 and 2016. And I'm going to guess that was when you were at college, potentially, or around that time, maybe?
Yes, so the beginning of that journey, so 2010 I left.
Okay.
But I would come back and play for Ray when she was at Redlands in the summer. So 3 months I'd come back and play and then go again.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. There was, as I said, there was a couple of gaps there in the playing career, and I was like, okay, now hearing that you obviously did some time in the US and the college system makes sense.
Yep.
But yeah, thanks for obviously coming along. You've been fantastic. Thanks for joining at home. We have got so much football lined up for you this week. As we said, there's some key battles in the NPL men's and women's. Gold Coast United and Lions do battle down the coast in the women's. Kappa and East, also a fantastic clash to watch. And then, of course, as we mentioned, Peninsula up against Lions on Friday night will be a cracker. Plenty of cup football as well. We now enter the final sort of stages of the Kappa Women's Super Cup. And we touched upon how crucial those sort of cutthroat games are to sort of raise that level of competition. And round 6 of the SEQ as well next week with a couple of key clashes. Make sure you jump on the website. Please listen at home on Spotify and YouTube. And as I said, send through some mascots if you think of any cool ones. We'll speak to you and see you all next week. Thanks for tuning in. Goodbye.